Welcome to the game plan.
Hi.
I'm Rico.
I'm Lindsay.
Today we're going to be doing top 5 games that we think are too simple. So this would be games that we think that if they were to add an element or two to them, it would build them out in a way that would make them very good, but as they are, I mean, some of them can be good. Like I actually have a few that I think are really good as they are, but man.
They could be great.
They could be great.
I had a hard time with this list.
Yeah?
Yeah, because it was either like things that were way too simple and I'm like, I don't even know if you can make them better.
Yeah.
Or if I was misremembering how simple they were. So it took me a while to make this one.
Yeah, there were a few games I ran across that I was like, I could see adding elements to this game and it would be fun. But maybe the beauty or the sweet spot of this game is the fact that it's so streamlined and it is so simple.
Yeah,
like
maybe.
That's really the part that makes it shine. And so I was like, well, I'm going to stay away from those games. So I really did try and focus on games that I thought were at least decent enough that I'd want to think about making them. You know, like if it's a game that I hate, I don't want to work so hard to try and make it so that I would play it. It's games that I would, oh, yeah, sure, I'll play again. But man, if we had this, it'd be a lot better.
I've got a bit of a mixture, I think.
Okay. So who wants to start?
You go.
Okay. So my number 5, and I did rate this in order of my number 1 is going to be the game that if these were added, it would be the best of the list. That's kind of how I did it. So my number 5 is a game that I do enjoy. It's Roll Through the Ages. And I've always thought that it ended maybe a touch soon.
Okay.
And so I thought it'd be really cool if they added like asynchronous powers, right? So every civilization had another power, and I don't know what that would be exactly, but that'd be kind of cool just to add that element, even as like a variant or a modular option. Modular expansion type. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Man, this didn't even cross my mind because I love it so much.
Yeah, and it is. This is probably the example of the game that I enjoy the most on my list. Yeah, I definitely enjoy this one the most as it is, but I think adding that would make it a little, make it pretty cool. And then I also there's a second one I thought would be cool if there was some element of engine building so that in Roll Through the Ages, you're going to be able to mark off things as you get them, and then they do benefit you throughout, but I think it would be cool if there was like an engine, like a guaranteed benefit. So a lot of them are, if you roll these things, you get an extra this or that. Whereas if it was something like, I can devote enough workers or enough resources to this thing, now from here on out, every time I roll, I get something like a little bit more of an engine building.
You get 2 food every time or something.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool.
This was the first roll and write, like modern roll and write that I played, and so I think I just don't find fault with it, just because it was so much fun. It was just this new concept of this game, so it just kind of has like a special place in my little shelf or something. I don't know, but
sure.
I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I understand that was why it's the first modern roll and write for me as well, and it struck a chord because I'm like, this is really fun. And I could just see the potential and how fun you could make it. Obviously, I think the caveat or the downside of adding these things is it would length. So the game plays currently in about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on the player count, which is really good, right? Like you get in, you get out, you have a fun time. Adding more, I think, is just going to lengthen it, which really kind of hurts the idea of why it's such a good game as it is it fills this niche. It doesn't outstay its welcome. Again, if anything, it could add a few more minutes and I'd be totally fine with it, but if you add too much, it might push it into the range where you're like, that
was going to take too long, let's play this other one.
Yeah, so that's kind of my... Ooh.
Yeah, I like it. I can see where you're going with that.
Cool.
Okay, my number 5 is Colony. So we played this one time at a convention. And you get these dice and you roll the dice and you can do things with the dice depending on the color, and it's like a dice placement game and you can buy buildings and stuff. And at first it was like, okay, this is pretty fun, but towards the end of the game you're just like, I don't really know what I can do, so I'll just do this thing because I can.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I need to do this thing, and oh, good, I get to do it. It's like, okay, I have these things. What can I do? Okay, I'll just do that.
Yeah.
It just kind of like, it peaked too soon, and then it just kind of fell off.
Sure. That would be what I'd consider like outstaying its welcome.
Yeah.
It's, for what it is, it lasts too long.
Yeah. And I think they just they tried to be Dominion too much.
Maybe. Sure. Yeah, I could see that.
Like a Dice Dominion or something, but it just didn't quite make it.
Okay, fair enough.
It was,
yeah, I could see adding a few elements into that game that would make it a little bit more interesting. It fell a little neutral for me. I think I rated it maybe a 5.5 or a 6 or something, which is like, yeah, I'll play it again, fine, but I'm never gonna look on a shelf and be like, ooh, yeah, let's do that one.
Yeah, right.
And I think that was probably why that has fallen to that level for me. I think there was potential in the concept. I like Dominion. I love Dominion. I love that you've got a little bit of engine building in there, like as you build your buildings, they're going to give you bonuses and an opportunity to build buildings quicker or easier or whatever.
Buildings.
Yeah, but I did feel at the end of the game, the actions I was taking weren't really building to something grand. They were just to try and maximize my point. Like, I don't know. It felt like if it ended 3 rounds sooner, it wouldn't have been any different.
It was just too simple for how long it was.
Sure.
They needed to add something down at the end.
Yeah, I could see that.
Okay.
Good call.
Thanks.
My number 4
Yeah.
is, I'm probably going to get some crap for this one. Not from you maybe, but from the audience, from viewers. Downforce.
Oh, this did cross my mind.
Okay, so I think Downforce is a fine game, and I get the niche that it fits, and I get why people like it, and I understand that. It was fun, it was fine, but man, I was thinking the whole time, oh, this game, okay, so check this out. You throw in a little bit of resource management in there.
Oh.
So like you have to manage your tire wear, your fuel, right. The exhaust of the...
And you could have a crew that you have,
And that's what I'm saying, like the exhaust level of the driver and the crew. And so essentially adding that resource management and then make it multiple laps so you can have like pit stops so that you could leverage, like you say, a pit crew and you could change tires out and stuff. I just imagine there could be so much here. You could add like hand management and stuff. The thing though, I think that makes it so that would be very difficult to implement and maintain the same type of game, the same niche that they're shooting for, is that, so I don't know if you recall in Downforce when you play a card indicating on your turn you get to choose a card to play, and it's going to show many different of the cars in play and how far each of them to go, right? So that's kind of the idea, is like I've got my car that I want to move this far and I want to position it in such a way, but by playing this card to do so, I'm also have to move this other car and this other car these far. Like that's the dictation that the game gives you. I don't know how you would do that. Like if I have to manage my car and the resources for my car, and then my turn dictates how much you use your car, I don't know how they would do that. That might be a little bit challenging. It might kind of ruin the game. I'm not sure how they would do that.
They might need to just do like an offshoot, like a Manhattan Project type thing.
Yeah, like same universe, the Downforce universe, but like Downforce the season or something. So that's my Downforce. I'd play it. It's just super simple, but I could see myself asking to play it if they had that next level. Because I like the concept. I love like the Formula One racing and that kind of stuff. The kart racing, I like that. I don't necessarily like NASCAR. I like the more, Downforce type of racing. So I think it's a great theme for me, and it does capture me. Man, but they just a little more. Oh, it'd be great.
Yep, I can see that. My number 4 is Ethnos. So it seemed like Ethnos got a lot of buzz.
Yeah, it did.
And then it just kind of fell flat for me. It's area control and set collection. And it was just like, just didn't see the point of it. It was just... Yeah,
that one missed the mark for me.
Sets, and then there's just nothing memorable for the game.
It missed the mark for me because of the hype. I expected a game that was going to satisfy whatever itch I might have, and just wasn't enough for me to enjoy out of it. Like, again, it was fine. Actually, the most positive experience I have out of Ethnos wasn't it Mike Fitzgerald who taught us?
Yes.
And that was cool.
Yeah.
Other than that, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and I don't have a whole lot more to add to that.
Yeah.
It was just kind of boring.
It was boring and ugly.
It was ugly and weird because the colors didn't flow together and stuff. It was just odd looking. Yeah.
Yeah. Good call.
Yeah. Okay.
I can agree with that one.
Yeah. Okay.
So my number 3 is Kingdom Builder.
Okay.
It's a pretty straightforward little game. You're going out on a map and
It's a big box.
It is a big. There is a big box, and of course we've only played the standard game.
Yeah.
One time. I know there's tons of expansions and modular expansions, and some of the things I am suggesting that could possibly make it more interesting to me may be included in some of those expansions. You guys could let me know if that's the case. But here's something that I thought would be interesting. So, Kingdom Builder, the name, to me, triggers this like. I have a lot. I'm going to have to build a kingdom.
Yeah, you got this giant thing.
This is a kingdom.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be building it because it's called Kingdom Builder. And then you don't really do that. So I thought like the settlement. So like you're positioning things and as you grow the grouping of a particular type of area or whatever, they become settlements or something. I thought how cool would it be if you could have settlements generate resources from turn to turn. So you could focus on certain types of settlements and certain types of area to generate resources that then you could use to build up other settlements better or somehow use them for another purpose. Just that added layer of like, I could add to this settlement for points at the end of the game. That's kind of how it works now. But it'd be cool if I could choose between points at the end of the game or resources throughout the game. Or both.
That'd be cool.
Right? Like I think that'd be interesting. And then I also think it'd be kind of cool if there was some sort of role selection. Like each time you went to take your turn, you had maybe like Concordia style where you had like a group of types of roles that might like they will amplify particular types of actions or decisions. And so by using this role when I'm building up the new settlement or when I'm building onto an existing settlement, it might benefit that particular action in a certain way. I thought that would be kind of fun. I think the biggest caveat for this one, and one of the reasons why I think it works pretty well as a game, and it's one that I would like to play again, is it does flow pretty quickly. The turns are pretty fast, and if you introduce all these other decisions, it might slog down from turn to turn. And this is one of those games I feel like by the time you're done with your turn and you've put any thought into what you want to do next turn, it's almost your turn again. Like it plays fairly quickly, and this might completely take that away.
Possibly.
That'd be my only fear.
Yeah. Okay.
So
my next game, I want to go on this theme a little bit of it's got a ton of expansions and it might be some of these expansions make it just the best game ever. But Ticket to Ride.
Yeah.
So I've played the base game and oh my God. Why do people love this game so much? It is just too simple.
Yeah.
You draw cards or you play trains, and you can have as many cards in your hand as is possible to hold. Like there's not even a hand limit. And then when you complete an objective, you don't even get to be like, hey, I completed this. You just put it down.
At the end of the game, we decide.
Yeah. But there's just no excitement. There's just nothing going on there. And I've only played the base game, and I know we might get a lot of crap for this because Ticket to Ride is this huge thing.
Yeah.
But I just don't get it.
Yeah.
So if anybody can explain it to me, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Is there an expansion that just changes the whole thing and I'm just going to love it? Or is this just not my game? So there's that.
Yeah, and that question is absolutely directed to you guys because I have no idea. I've played the base, the standard edition on an app and then physically once. And I don't get it. Like to me it's mindlessly boring.
Yeah. Really.
There's no decisions to make. There's a little, I mean I get that there's strategy there, but and I know that people who are more experienced, like so when we did play the physical version, there was somebody who you could tell they had experience because they knew particular routes to try and get into because those tend to be bottlenecks. That type of experience, to me, that's not interesting. That's just your experience with that particular map layout. If I were giving you another map with the same rules, you wouldn't have any edge on me.
Yeah.
That game is very, very simple.
And I don't like to do that to people. I don't want to bottleneck just to block people. Like that's not fun to me.
Yeah.
So
that
anyway.
That game could definitely use with about 50 layers. So
And maybe they're out there. I don't know.
I would like to just mention, if anybody who is interested in playing Ticket to Ride or has the opportunity to play it, and then can also have the opportunity to play Paris Connection.
Yes.
Vastly better game, and it's just it maybe even more simple, but the decisions are so much more interesting.
And Paris Connection is getting nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't ever hear anybody talking about that, but Ticket to Ride comes up all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's that. Yeah. So, okay, let's move on.
This wasn't the top 5 reasons to bash on Ticket to Ride.
No,
but
I'm
it just
sorry.
turns out that game's kind of lame.
Okay, I'm sorry, yeah.
Sorry.
No bashing.
Are we on number 2 now?
We're on number 2 now.
Okay, so my number 2 is New York 1901.
I like this game.
And I do too.
But it just doesn't get...
It doesn't get played a lot.
It doesn't get to the table.
This is a game we picked up very early into our board gaming
Yes.
hobby career. I don't know what you call that.
Hobby, I guess.
As we got into the hobby more seriously.
Yes.
We picked it up very early, and it is a very, very light game. For that reason, we've maybe grown past it. I want to say grown out of it because we haven't played enough to grow out of it. But we've kind of grown past it, right? We only pull it out when we need only the simplest of things to play. And for that reason, and because I think it is fun, I'm like, man, this game having a few more elements of depth could get, okay, so here we go. I find out that I really like resource management. Can you imagine if, so in this game, you'll basically draw these cards that indicate what you can build, and there's like a color and a pattern, and you do like polyomino style out on the map with these skyscrapers. If while you're doing that, instead of being able to just say, okay, I've got this card and now I can play it, if you have to devote some resources to generate, and then maybe over time you can choose timing to like maybe finish multiple at the same time. So there is a little bit of timing elements in that game. If you could add a resource layer to that, I think it would make it interesting enough that I might want to ask to play it now. And then I also thought it would be kind of fun to do where each player is kind of like a CEO of a real estate corporation. And so each company has it's kind of asynchronous powers, but very thematic in the way that like the company that you're focusing on, you're building in New York in early 1900s, they could find thematically companies that are focused, like textile company or whatever, and then you have very specific focuses on what you're trying to accomplish. One of the things I find in that game, it does not vary in the setup or gameplay based on the player count. And so the map size is whatever it is. And so if you play it with 2 players, you're like, hey, and then if you play with 4 players, it's very tight. And I think if you could add these asynchronous company objective, or at least focusing, it could force players to not necessarily interact, but there'd be a lot more vying for particular locations for certain reasons, and that would otherwise maybe go unnoticed. Like you're like, oh, this is a little
more competition.
Yeah, I mean there are objectives that add like the number of buildings you build along the street. Say you get bonuses, and those are easy enough to spot. But if you could add on top of that like this particular neighborhood or these neighborhood types for this particular company, I don't know. I just think adding that layer would really push it into that next level of interest. But I kind of feel like the game is really nice, sweet spot for where it is, and I think that the timing, it may add a complexity to the whole concept of timing it out so that you build that might be too much for what the game is wanting to be.
Yeah, so then it would be like an expansion. So then if you just want the,
Are any designers and publishers listening?
Resource management.
The resource management. Modular expansion for...
So then you can do either one.
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of expansions and modules and stuff.
Yeah, I love modular expansions for that reason. Totally. So that's my number 2.
So my number 2 is Starving Artists. And this was a Kickstarter game that we got pretty early on. And it was a great size, tactilely. It was beautiful. It was really pretty to look at, but it was broken.
Yeah, and we tried. We tried to house rule. Yeah, we wanted to love this. We tried many times.
But it turns out that if it's your turn to draw when a really good painting comes out, you win.
Yeah, if you're lucky enough to get into a big good painting early, and then you aren't stupid enough to mess that up somehow,
you might as well just call the game then. It was so pretty, and he even had a thing where you could make your
online
own
tool. You could go and you could upload your own image. So these images were all based off of like non-IP images, older images, you know, that don't have IPs against them anymore. But you could go to this online tool and you could put it in whatever you wanted, a photo of your family or whatever, and it would generate a template that matched the game, and you could just print it out, laminate it, and just add.
It was so great.
It was really cool.
And the cards were nice and big, and the little paint pieces were cute, and it was such a nice looking game, but it was just broken.
Yeah.
There was potential there though, but we really tried. We tried to make it work.
Because
it was a game that we could just sit and play like on a little table in the living room, like while we're watching a show or something. But yeah, it's too bad. It was just a broken game. So Starving Artist is my number 2.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 1.
Yes.
So this is my number 1 that if this game had these elements in it, it would be my favorite of this list.
Okay.
Is Mintworks.
I'm surprised you find fault with Mintworks.
So I love Mintworks.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. And every time I play it, I'm like, man, now I want to play the big version of this game.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Like, it's not necessarily that I want to see this version change, is that I want to see like a
big box Mintworks.
Yeah. So did I just ruin this list? Because this game is too simple.
But it's kind of perfect.
It is. That's the thing. It's like I love the game as it is.
Yeah.
But okay, so let me tell you what I would like to see
Okay.
as modular expansion added. No. So add a community location set. So you can either build to in this game you're building a little neighborhood, and it's, you know, as soon as like the first person to 9 points, you end the round, and then whoever has the most points at the end of the round wins. It's real quick, real simple. The worker placement is these little discs that look like mints that you would eat.
And it's in a little mint tin.
And it's a little mint tin, right? So what I'm asking for kind of ruins that whole concept, but if you could add the option to then build to either your neighborhood or to a community location, and then people that could use the community locations could somehow impact the type of action that was taken. So there is a little bit of the opportunity to use other things in front of people and stuff, but I'm thinking like the neighborhood that you're building and the community out, if there was some way to connect that community with all of us, but kind of independently, I think that would really add another interesting layer to the game. Yeah. And then this, I think, would be huge. If you could have different worker types, right? So you could have like an engineer worker type for design, like when you're ready to start designing the building, and then you could have like construction worker types when you're ready to start building the building, and then different buildings, you know, there's the building types that are for like trash pickup or whatever, and then there's the building type, so there's different building types, and if you were to use like the neutral workers that come with the game, they get special thing, or they get basic things when they do it, but if you have a specific worker type for that particular area that you are using, then you get a bonus on top of that, or something like that, to add just that another layer of...
You have the spearmint workers and the peppermint workers. And
yeah, exactly. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. All right, I could see that.
Of course, and I keep alluding to this, and why I keep wanting to stop while I'm explaining all the things I would add to it, is it would remove from the fact that it's a micro game.
Yeah, it's just a little tiny thing that you just carry with you.
And there's
so
no way...
this would be the at-home version, and then you could have the travel version.
Yeah, like it would be the original version, and then the big box version that you keep at home or something.
Yeah.
It almost feels like it needs to be a different game.
Maybe.
But the inspiration was drawn from Mintworks, so that's my number 1.
Okay. So my number 1 is, it's kind of silly. Okay, anyway, it's Roll For It. So in Roll For It...
You can't get any simpler than that.
But seriously, so we play this game specifically when we're watching the Olympics, kind of. We just sit and we watch people swim and we play Roll For It. But in Roll For It, in the base game, in the rules, you start with 6 dice and you put out 2 cards and you roll the dice, and you can kind of reserve the card, but not really, because somebody can take it from you. You can kind of reserve these dice for this card, but then you can't use those dice anymore. So then you just have like 2 or 3 dice that you're rolling. And so guys play with 2 sets of dice and 3 cards. Yeah. So we house ruled it, and I think it makes it a much better game.
That's true.
because then you have all these extra dice you can still reserve, but then you still have enough dice to do something with. Because if you just had 6 dice,
it just takes too long. Like you get to the position where you're just like, I have 2 dice and I need 2 6s, and you're just rolling and rolling and rolling.
That's my turn. Is I need 2 6s.
And you've locked up all your dice into a card that maybe somebody's not even close to getting to, and you just need to get the card out of the way to reset things.
And you can take back all the dice from the cards. You can't just take back the dice from one card. If you pull back your dice, you have to take all of them. So then all that time is wasted. Yeah. So anyway, play with 2 sets of dice and extra cards. And
I concur.
That's my number 1, because that game is fun now.
Yeah. So those were our top 5 games that were
just a little too simple.
Little too simple, and if we added things, we'd ask to play them.
Yes.
Yeah. You can go with that.
Okay.
So any games that you feel match that for your experience? Have you played any games that you're thinking, man, if they were to just add a layer or 2 or an element or 2 here?
Apparently of resource management.
For me, you can just add resource management to any game, and it's just, bam, that's going to work.
All right. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.
See you next time.